The desert was endless, a vast, blistering expanse of red sand and broken bones. The wind screamed across the dunes, carrying with it the scent of metal, rot, and gunpowder. It wasn't a place meant for life anymore, it was a graveyard of wars long forgotten, where the sun itself seemed to burn with hatred. Captain Mason Hale squinted through the dust storm as he guided his unit's transport along the fractured highway. The vehicle's armor was scorched, its insignia faded beneath layers of grit and bullet holes. 6 soldiers sat silently inside, each one a survivor of something worse than death. "Command says this region's clean," Sergeant Vega muttered, checking the scanner that flickered weakly in her hands. "But the signals don't match. There's interference, like static, or movement." Hale didn't respond. He'd learned to trust instincts more than machines. The Badlands had a pulse of their own, a rhythm that beat beneath the sand, alive and ancient. They were supposed to be securing a supply route, but the coordinates had led them deep into nowhere, a dead zone where even drones refused to fly. What they found instead were ruins, the shattered remains of a military installation, half buried in sand and melted glass. "Looks abandoned," Private Darius said, his voice cracking from dehydration. "Everything's abandoned here," Hale replied. "That doesn't mean we're alone." The team moved cautiously through the crumbling outpost, weapons drawn, scanning for heat signatures. The walls were carved with strange burns, circular marks that didn't look like blast damage. More like surgical cauterization. "What the hell did this?" Vega whispered, tracing one of the scorched holes with her glove. Before Hale could answer, the radio hissed with static. A voice, faint, broken, came through. "Don't let it see you." Then silence. Darius froze. Was that someone alive? "Could be a trap," Hale muttered. "Stay sharp." As they advanced deeper, the air grew thick with the stench of decay. Something metallic gleamed under the flickering light, a pile of helmets and gear stacked neatly, almost ritualistically. Dog tags hung from them, clinking like wind chimes. Vega knelt to inspect one, then her eyes widened. "These are ours. Badges from the 9th Recon. They went missing 6 months ago." Hale felt a chill crawl down his spine. Then whatever happened to them, it's still here. A sudden roar echoed through the ruins, mechanical and guttural, like something half alive and half machine. The team instinctively took cover. Hale aimed his rifle toward the open courtyard. The wind carried a whisper, low, guttural clicks. It wasn't human. Through the dust, a shape moved, tall, distorted, almost invisible. The air shimmered around it, refracting light like a mirage. A sound pulsed, a low hum that vibrated through Hale's bones. "Movement!" Darius shouted. "Thermals can't read it." The creature decloaked. It stood nearly 8 feet tall. Armor fused with blackened bone and alien metal. Its mandibles clicked as its mask scanned the soldiers, marking each with a red targeting reticle. But this predator was different, its body pulsed with strange veins of glowing energy, its armor scarred by symbols that looked carved in flesh rather than metal. For a moment, no one moved. Then the creature roared, a sound that shattered the silence and sent birds scattering from their nests of rusted rebar. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the air, but most ricocheted off the predator's armor. It moved like lightning, one swipe of its blade sent Vega flying into a wall. Hale fired his grenade launcher, the explosion throwing up sand and debris, but when the dust cleared, the creature was gone. Darius breathed heavily. "Did we kill it?" Hale shook his head. "No. It's hunting." Then they heard it again, the clicks, coming from different directions this time. 3 distinct rhythms. "Multiple targets," Vega gasped, clutching her side, blood seeping through her armor. "We've got more than one." The ground trembled. From the shadows, figures emerged, not just predators, but smaller, twisted shapes crawling beside them. They looked like hybrids, creatures with human musculature and predator features, moving on all fours, their skin seared and patchworked like experimental subjects. "Oh my God," Darius whispered. "They're evolving." The leader raised its spear, made of obsidian and wire, and pointed it directly at Hale. In that moment, Hale understood. This wasn't just a hunt. This was a proving ground. A breeding zone. And they were the test subjects. "Fall back!" Hale yelled. Into the tunnels. The unit sprinted toward a crumbling underground entrance as plasma bolts ripped through the air, slicing through stone and flesh alike. One struck Darius, disintegrating half his torso in a flash of blue fire. His scream echoed into the dust, then was cut short. Hale dragged Vega down the steps as the first predator landed behind them, its mandibles opening wide in triumph. The last thing Hale saw before the tunnel collapsed was its eyes, burning through the darkness like molten suns. And he knew then, the Badlands had awakened. The tunnel reeked of ash, rust, and death. Captain Hale's breath came in ragged bursts as he pushed deeper underground, dragging Sergeant Vega with him. Her wound was bad, seared flesh from a plasma burn, still sizzling faintly beneath her armor. The heat of it made the air shimmer. Above them, the surface trembled. The predators were moving, their heavy, deliberate steps echoing through the sand like the march of giants. Every sound was magnified in the silence below. The tunnels weren't natural. They'd been carved, not by machines, but by something older, something that knew how to make the earth bleed. Vega groaned, clutching her ribs. "They're playing with us, Hale, like we're part of some game." He pressed his hand to her shoulder. "We're still breathing. That means we've still got a chance." The light from his helmet flickered as they descended further. Strange markings coated the tunnel walls, glowing faintly with a sickly green hue. They weren't human symbols. They were scars, etched with molten precision into the stone. A sound drifted from below, a low moaning hum. Not mechanical. Organic. It vibrated through Hale's chest, stirring something primal in him. Fear, ancient and instinctive. "Command," he said into his radio, static crackling through. "This is Captain Hale. We have contact with unidentified hostiles. Multiple casualties. Requesting evac from grid sector." The radio shrieked, a burst of noise, followed by a voice that wasn't human. "Prey, runs, well." The words came in fragmented English, warped through an inhuman growl. Hale froze. Vega's eyes widened. "They're listening to our comms," she whispered. He shut the radio off. No more talking. They reached a wide chamber. The ceiling opened up into a cavern filled with bones, human, animal, and something else entirely. Some were fused with metal implants, others twisted into unrecognizable forms. In the center lay a massive skull, too large to be anything Earth had birthed. Predator. But its jaw was split open, and inside it, something pulsed, like a living organ, wet and breathing. Tubes of flesh and wire ran from it into the walls. "What the hell?" Vega muttered. Hale approached slowly, his flashlight dancing across the grotesque altar. Around it were predator masks, hundreds of them, impaled on spikes made of bone. Some were ancient, cracked and burned. Others looked new. "This is where they come," Hale said quietly. "This is their proving ground." A soft clicking filled the air. Vega raised her weapon. The clicking grew louder, overlapping into a chorus of metallic whispers. From the far tunnel, a figure crawled out, small, twitching, its movements erratic. It was human. Or it had been. The man's skin was stretched thin over his bones, his eyes bloodshot and wild. Metal cords pulsed beneath his flesh like veins of living machinery. He reached for Hale, trembling violently. "They made me see," he stammered. The sky opened, and the gods came down. "Hunters, but they hunt us to learn," to become. His voice cracked, his mouth splitting wider than it should have. A glow spread under his skin, veins lighting up like fire. He screamed as his body twisted, bones snapping in wet bursts. His spine elongated, skin hardening into a shell-like carapace. Vega stumbled back. "Oh God, Hale, it's changing." The man's scream turned into guttural clicking, the same sound as the predators above. Then his head jerked violently, his eyes rolled white, and his body went still. A moment of silence. Then a plasma bolt exploded through his chest, vaporizing him in a burst of blue fire. The chamber filled with a blinding light as three cloaked shapes appeared above the altar. Hale raised his weapon, but one of them uncloaked first, the same predator from before. Its armor shimmered with heat, its mask now cracked. In its claws hung the skull of one of Hale's men, spine still dripping. The predator dropped it at Hale's feet, an offering or a warning. Vega gritted her teeth. "Why us?" The predator turned its head slowly toward her voice. Its mandibles twitched. "Strong, prey," it hissed, voice synthesized through its mask. Then it pointed at Hale. "Leader, fights." It wanted a duel. Hale's hands trembled. His instincts screamed to run, but some part of him, buried beneath terror and exhaustion, rose instead. He stepped forward, staring directly into the creature's burning eyes. "Fine," he muttered. "You want a hunt? You've got one." The predator tossed aside its plasma caster, extending two curved wrist blades that glowed faintly red. Hale raised his rifle, fired, but the predator moved with impossible speed, deflecting bullets mid-air. It lunged, slicing across Hale's chest. Pain flared white. He stumbled back, blood soaking through his armor. The creature grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground, its mandibles opening wide. Then a blast of gunfire ripped through the cavern. Vega, half collapsed, had grabbed a fallen grenade launcher and fired point-blank. The explosion tore through the chamber, collapsing part of the ceiling. Hale hit the ground hard. Dust and smoke filled the air. He grabbed Vega, dragging her through the chaos as the roof came down. Behind them, the predator roared, not in pain, but rage. They emerged into the open night. The desert stretched endlessly before them, the horizon glowing red with distant lightning. The Badlands were alive, the air heavy with unseen motion. Vega collapsed beside him, coughing blood. "Where do we go now?" Hale stared into the storm, his heartbeat echoing in his skull. Above the dunes, he could see faint lights, dozens of them, moving in formation. The hunters were gathering. He swallowed hard. "We don't run. We survive." From far behind, a deep roar rolled across the desert, the sound of 1,000 alien voices blending into one. The hunt had only just begun. The desert night bled red. Lightning rolled across the clouds like veins of fire, turning the dunes into a shifting ocean of molten sand. The storm had teeth, biting winds and glassy dust that tore at exposed skin. But Captain Hale and Vega kept moving, silhouettes staggering through the chaos. Vega's wound had worsened. Every breath she took came out wet, gurgling through blood. The plasma burn was spreading, veins blackening around it as though the alien energy was poisoning her from the inside. "Stop," she gasped. "You're gonna drop before I do." Hale tightened his grip under her arm. "You die here, and I die next. We're not giving them the satisfaction." A sound broke the wind, low, rhythmic clicks echoing faintly. Not from one direction. From everywhere. The predators were tracking them, herding them through the storm. Hale could feel their gaze on his back, unseen but suffocating. He spotted something ahead through the haze, a structure half buried in sand. A tower, twisted and skeletal, the remains of a pre-war communications relay. It was their only shelter. "Come on," he shouted over the wind. They stumbled inside, the metal groaning under their weight. The interior was dark, littered with bones and shattered tech. A dead man hung from a wire in the corner, his body stripped of flesh, spine polished clean, a trophy left behind. Vega collapsed against the wall, trembling. "They kill like artists," she muttered. "Everything they do is deliberate." Hale scanned the room. Strange markings coated the walls, the same alien script he'd seen in the tunnels. But this time, mixed among them, were human letters, carved in blood. "They're not hunters anymore." He stepped closer, heart hammering. The writing led to a pile of old equipment, and among it, a recorder light blinked faintly. He hit play. Static. Then a voice. Weak. Shaking. Female. "This is Dr. Kira Lau, U.S. Exobiological Research Division. If you're hearing this, you're already dead." Vega's eyes flicked to Hale. "They came here decades ago," the voice continued. "Not to hunt, to breed. The Badlands are a nursery, a crucible for evolution. They fuse human DNA with their own, to create perfect hybrid predators. We were the test subjects." The voice broke into coughing, then a long silence. When it returned, it was barely a whisper. "They're changing faster than we can study them. Smarter. Adaptive. They've learned human emotion. Fear. Cruelty. Mercy." A distorted growl cut through the recording. Then nothing. Hale stood frozen, the truth sinking in. "They've been here longer than we knew. They've been watching us evolve, just like we've been watching them." Before Vega could respond, the tower creaked. The storm outside went eerily silent. A faint shimmer rippled through the air near the doorway. Hale raised his weapon slowly. "We've got company." The air split open, a blur of distortion, a cloaked figure dropping from the ceiling. It landed behind Vega, blade snapping open with a metallic hiss. Hale fired instinctively. The bullet sparked against the predator's armor, staggering it backward. Vega rolled to her knees, pulled her sidearm, and fired directly at its mask. The bullet cracked the visor, just enough for Hale to see its eye. It was human. Half human, at least. Pale skin beneath the armor. A human iris surrounded by alien mandibles and black veins spreading across its cheek. It looked at him with something more than animal hunger. Recognition. The creature's breathing quickened, erratic. Then, to Hale's horror, it spoke, its voice glitched, a blend of growl and human speech. "Cap, Tane. Hale." His stomach dropped. "How the hell do you know my name?" The creature tilted its head, mandibles twitching. "We remember." Vega screamed, "Shoot it." But Hale hesitated, and in that hesitation, the hybrid lunged. It tackled him through a wall of rusted metal, sending them both crashing into the sand outside. Hale swung his rifle like a club, cracking its jaw. The hybrid snarled, grabbing him by the throat, lifting him with inhuman strength. "Prey becomes hunter," it hissed. Then, from above, a plasma bolt struck it in the chest, vaporizing the creature in a flash of blue light. Hale dropped to the sand as another predator uncloaked nearby, taller, bulkier, its armor scorched black. It stood over him, silent, studying him like a disappointed god. Then it turned, retrieving the fallen hybrid's skull and crushing it in its hand. Vega stumbled out of the wreckage, coughing blood. That one, it killed its own kind. Hale stared as the creature recloaked and vanished into the storm. No. It killed the mistake. They stood there in the burning silence of the desert, wind howling again through the ruins. The realization crept over both of them like frost. The predators weren't just hunting them anymore. They were experimenting. Testing what it meant to be human. To be alive. To be perfect. Vega slumped to her knees, voice shaking. "We can't win against this. You saw what it was, half of us, half of them. We're not the enemy anymore, Hale. We're resources. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the horizon, where dozens of cloaked shapes moved across the dunes, synchronized, advancing in silence. Hale stared at them, numb. Then we find the heart of this place. Whatever's making them, we end it. Vega met his eyes, tears mixing with blood. And if we can't? He chambered around, his face cold and hollow. Then we make sure they never forget who we were before they took everything. As the storm swallowed them once more, the echoes of the dead sky whispered across the dunes, laughter, inhuman and ancient, carried on the wind. The storm died with the dawn. But the silence that followed was worse. The sun clawed its way over the Badlands like a dying god, spilling blood-red light across a horizon littered with wreckage and bones. Every shape in the distance looked alive, twisted shadows melting in the heat. Hale and Vega trudged through the dunes, exhausted, each step dragging through the sand as though gravity itself was trying to pull them under. They hadn't spoken in hours. Words felt pointless here. The radio in Hale's pack hissed occasionally, but it wasn't static anymore, it was whispering. Soft, fragmented voices, speaking in both human and alien tongues. Sometimes he could swear one of them said his name. When the mirage appeared ahead, Hale thought it was another hallucination, a trick of exhaustion and heat. But as they drew closer, the shimmer solidified into glass, a vast field of it, stretching to the horizon. It was smooth and reflective, like a frozen lake made of molten sand cooled by fire. Beneath the surface, bones gleamed faintly, suspended in eternal agony. Vega stared at it, trembling. What is this place? The glass graveyard, Hale murmured. I've heard stories. They said nukes turned the desert to glass during the border wars. She crouched down, touching the surface. It was warm, almost pulsing. No, she whispered. This isn't from bombs. This is organic. A low vibration rippled under their feet. Hale drew his rifle, scanning the horizon. The desert shimmered again, shapes flickering in and out of sight, reflections of movement beneath the glass. Something was alive down there. He motioned Vega back. Stay sharp. They followed the reflective path until they reached the remains of what looked like a military outpost, but this one was different. Half of it had sunk beneath the glass, frozen mid-collapse. The walls were fused with alien technology, black cables, living tissue threaded into steel. Inside, they found more evidence, predator symbols carved into concrete, human DNA samples stored in translucent capsules, and rows of stasis pods filled with figures suspended in liquid. Some were unmistakably human. Others weren't. Vega approached one of the pods, her voice breaking. Hale, look at their faces. He did, and his stomach turned to ice. The people inside had predator mandibles, human eyes, and veins glowing faintly with bioluminescent green. Their bodies were malformed, mid-transformation. Some were frozen mid-scream, their mouths stretched wide in agony. Vega's breath hitched. They're splicing us. Blending the species. Before Hale could answer, one of the pods hissed. Steam bled from the cracks in the glass. A heartbeat, slow, heavy, echoing through the chamber. Then another. Oh God, Vega whispered, backing away. They're waking up. The floor shuddered. The glass beneath them cracked, spiderwebbing outward. Hale fired into the pod, the bullet shattering it, but it was too late. A mass of claws and tendons burst from within, dragging itself onto the floor. It wasn't a predator. It wasn't human either. Its skin shifted like liquid, colors rippling beneath the surface. Its mouth split in 4 directions, but from within came a human scream, a voice pleading for help through layers of inhuman sound. Vega screamed and opened fire, unloading her entire clip. The creature convulsed but didn't die. Instead, it split open, its blood glowing bright green as tendrils lashed across the room. Hale grabbed Vega, diving behind a fallen support beam as the monster tore through equipment. It's reacting to sound. Hale shouted. Stay quiet. They crouched, barely breathing. The creature stopped moving, its head twitching in jagged, insect-like movements. Then it turned toward the glass floor. A low vibration hummed, and suddenly, hundreds of smaller figures began to stir beneath the surface. The graveyard was coming alive. Hale pulled Vega to her feet. We move. Now. They ran through the collapsing corridor as cracks spidered through the ground, the translucent floor shattering beneath them. Shapes clawed from beneath the glass, skeletal hybrids, half-formed predators with human skulls, their eyes glowing from within the crystalline depths. Hale fired at the exit, blowing the door hinges off. They stumbled into blinding sunlight just as the glass field erupted, geysers of molten shards spraying skyward, each carrying with it a twisted body shrieking in pain. They fell to the sand, coughing, shielding their faces as the explosion rippled across the horizon. When it finally stopped, only silence remained, and a pit, wide and deep, yawning before them. Down there, something was breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Massive. Vega clutched her side, pale and shaking. Whatever that is, it's controlling them. Hale looked down into the darkness, his reflection flickering in the shards around him. Then that's where we go. Vega stared at him in disbelief. You're insane. You saw what's down there. We can't stop this. He turned toward her, eyes hollow but burning with something fierce, not hope, but defiance. We're not stopping it. We're ending it. The ground beneath them trembled again. Far off, the horizon shimmered with cloaked movement, dozens, maybe hundreds of predators descending from the dunes, drawn by the disturbance. They were coming. Vega looked at the pit one last time, then at Hale. Then we go together. He nodded once. They descended into the black maw of the earth, unaware that something below was already awake, watching, and waiting. The last light of day died on the surface, and the Badlands swallowed them whole. The descent felt endless. The deeper Hale and Vega climbed into the pit, the further the light of the surface faded behind them. Their flashlights struggled to pierce the black, the air was thick, humid, and alive with sound. Low hums vibrated through the rock walls, like the desert itself was breathing. Each step echoed strangely, swallowed by something vast and hollow. The tunnel walls were no longer stone, they pulsed faintly, smooth and damp like flesh. The deeper they went, the more it felt like walking down the throat of a living creature. Vega coughed, her voice breaking. This isn't a mine. It's a nest. Hale's jaw tightened. Then let's find its queen. At last, the tunnel opened into a colossal underground chamber. Hale's flashlight swept across it, and froze. Hundreds of bodies hung suspended from the ceiling in translucent cocoons, their outlines barely visible. Human. Predator. Hybrid. The walls shimmered with alien resin, and in the center of it all stood something monstrous, a structure of bone and metal that pulsed like a heart. Cables and tendrils ran from it in every direction, feeding into the cocoons. It was the source. The core of the evolution project. A faint rhythmic beat throbbed through the chamber, slow and steady, like the pulse of a god. Vega's breath hitched. It's alive. Hale approached cautiously. The floor was covered in skulls, each branded with strange glyphs. Every step he took, the pulse grew louder. His mind began to race, flashes of images that weren't his. A battlefield. A predator standing over a pile of corpses. The earth burning. Then, a glimpse of himself, wearing one of their masks. He stumbled. The vision vanished. Sweat poured down his face. Vega grabbed his arm. Hale, what's wrong? He swallowed hard. It's showing me things. Memories. Or, projections. Before they could speak again, a voice echoed through the chamber, deep, distorted, not human but eerily familiar. "Welcome, pray." Hale spun, rifle raised. The voice didn't come from one direction, it came from everywhere. The walls themselves vibrated with it. "Who are you?" Hale shouted. A figure uncloaked near the pulsing heart. It was massive, nearly 10 feet tall, with armor fused into its body. Its mandibles were laced with metal, its eyes glowing bright white. But what chilled Hale most was its left arm, entirely human. "Evolution," it growled, stepping forward. "We are the next." Vega raised her weapon. "You're the one controlling them." The creature tilted its head. "No. We guide. The hunt changes. The weak die. The strong become one." Behind it, several cocoons split open. Hybrid creatures emerged, each more twisted than the last. Their movements were jerky, their breathing ragged. One of them still wore a soldier's tag around its neck. Vega froze, whispering, "That's Darius." The thing that used to be Darius raised its head, half human, half predator. Its jaw split open, clicking softly, and its remaining eye rolled toward her. "Vega," it rasped. She screamed and opened fire, riddling the creature with bullets until it collapsed. But even as it fell, its blood glowed, forming veins that crawled across the ground toward the pulsing heart. The leader spread its arms. "You cannot kill what we are becoming. You built the weapons that made us. You burned the world, and now the world burns you." Hale gritted his teeth. "You think evolution means wiping out everything that came before?" The creature's mandibles spread wide in a chilling approximation of a smile. "Not wiping out. Consuming." It roared, and the chamber exploded into chaos. The hybrids lunged from the shadows, shrieking in distorted voices. Hale and Vega fired in every direction, muzzle flashes painting the walls in bursts of light. Acidic blood sprayed through the air, sizzling against the metal floor. A hybrid tackled Vega, pinning her down. Its mandibles opened wide above her face. She shoved a grenade into its mouth and rolled away. The explosion ripped through the chamber, shattering several pods and splattering the walls with gore. Hale reloaded, breath ragged, eyes darting toward the heart. "That thing's controlling them. If we destroy it, maybe we stop this." Vega nodded weakly. "Then let's kill a god." They ran for the core as tendrils lashed from the walls, grabbing at their legs. Hale slashed through them with his combat knife, green fluid splattering across his visor. The heart pulsed faster now, reacting to their presence, its rhythm accelerating, matching the beat of their footsteps. Vega reached the base of the structure and slammed an explosive charge against it. "This'll do it." "Set the timer," Hale yelled. She looked at him, eyes sunken but determined. "We won't have time to get out." Hale hesitated, then met her gaze. "We make time." The monstrous predator roared, charging toward them. Hale unloaded every bullet he had into its chest, but it didn't slow. It swung a massive blade, slicing through his armor and sending him crashing to the floor. Blood poured from the wound. The creature loomed over him, mandibles dripping with saliva. "You fight well, for prey." Hale spat blood in its face. "Then choke on it." Vega slammed the detonator. The world erupted. A wave of blue fire tore through the chamber. The heart screamed, a sound that wasn't sound but vibration, echoing through bone and air alike. The hybrids disintegrated into ash. The floor collapsed, and the ceiling fell in chunks of molten metal. Hale dragged Vega toward a collapsing passage as the inferno swallowed the nest. They barely made it through before the entire chamber imploded, leaving behind a storm of fire and dust. They lay in the rubble, choking on the smoke. Above them, the surface flickered with orange light. "It's done," Vega whispered. Hale looked toward the rising flames. "No," he said quietly. "It's only beginning." From somewhere deep beneath the ground. Something answered, a low, guttural roar that rolled through the desert like thunder. The heart had burned, but it wasn't dead. The Badlands burned. The explosion from the heart's chamber had split the desert open like a wound, sending plumes of fire and smoke spiraling into the bruised sky. The blast could be seen for miles, a false sunrise over a world long past redemption. But even in destruction, the desert did not die. It moved. The ground rumbled beneath Hale and Vega's bodies as they lay among the wreckage. The sand shifted as though something enormous was stirring beneath it. Vega's voice was barely audible. "Tell me that was it, tell me it's over." Hale forced himself to his feet, ignoring the searing pain in his chest wound. "It's not over. We killed the heart, but we didn't kill whatever's feeding it." The sky above them darkened unnaturally, the color bleeding from orange to deep crimson. The clouds churned like boiling smoke. A low, resonant hum filled the air, mechanical and organic at once. Vega looked up. "What's that sound?" Hale raised his rifle, eyes narrowing. "Something's coming." Through the rolling dust, shapes emerged on the horizon, dozens of cloaked figures moving in perfect unison. Their outlines flickered in and out of visibility, distortions in the air that shimmered with unnatural heat. But these weren't the same predators they had fought before. These were ancient. Their armor was bone white, carved with runes that glowed faintly like embers. Their masks were elongated, ceremonial, their movements graceful yet predatory. Each carried a weapon Hale had never seen, spears that hummed with static, curved blades that pulsed like living tissue. Vega gasped. "They're not soldiers, they're priests." Hale's pulse quickened. "Then we just killed their god." The air split open with a thunderclap. The earth cracked beneath them, and from the wound, something vast began to rise. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. It was both. A massive structure, shaped like a temple fused with machinery, ascended from the sands, its surface crawling with symbols that shifted like living things. It pulsed with green light, and from within, Hale could see movement, silhouettes pacing in its core, mechanical arms shifting like insects rebuilding a hive. Vega fell to her knees, whispering, this is where it all started." Hale stared, realization sinking in. "That's not a ship. That's their ark. They've been buried here for centuries, waiting." The lead predator, taller than the rest, its mask carved from obsidian, stepped forward. It uncloaked slowly, revealing scars that crisscrossed its chest like maps of war. Around its neck hung trophies not of bone, but technology, human weapons, computer cores, neural chips. It activated a holographic display in the air, human faces, data streams, genetic sequences. And then Hale saw it, his own file. "They've been tracking us," he breathed. "Studying us down to our DNA." The elder predator's gaze locked onto him. It spoke, not in words, but through vibrations that filled the air and resonated. Inside Hale's skull. "You killed the seed," it said, its tone echoing like a chorus of ghosts. "Now, the parent wakes." The sand behind it erupted. A colossal figure clawed its way from the pit, a being of fused metal and flesh, easily 50 feet tall. Its skull was elongated, its chest glowing with the same sickly green light as the heart they'd destroyed. It wasn't just a predator, it was a prime, an ancient progenitor of their species, a god-machine birthed from war. Vega screamed as the creature straightened to its full height, the air vibrating with its roar. "How the hell do we kill that?" Hale's voice was hoarse but steady. "We don't. We outsmart it." He scanned the wreckage, his eyes landing on a fallen predator weapon, its core still glowing with unstable plasma energy. He grabbed it, the device thrumming violently in his hand. Vega recognized it instantly. "That's a singularity charge. It'll vaporize everything within a mile." "Exactly." She stared at him, realization dawning. "You're not coming out of this alive, are you? He looked up at the sky, the storm swirling like a living eye above the desert. Maybe none of us are. But if this thing gets out, there won't be a world left to save. The Prime roared again, the force of it knocking them both to the ground. The elder predators began to kneel around it, chanting in guttural tones that made the ground tremble. The arc behind them opened, releasing a blinding green light. Vega coughed blood, her strength fading fast. Then I'm staying with you. Hale turned to her, his face hard but his eyes breaking. Vega, if this works, it'll erase everything in here. You won't even feel it. She smiled weakly. Good. I'm tired of feeling. Hale swallowed, nodding. Then we finish this together. They stood side by side, weapons ready, facing the colossal nightmare that loomed before them. The Prime's gaze fell upon them, twin burning suns set in a face that had watched civilizations rise and die. The air crackled. The predator priests roared. Hale activated the charge. The weapon began to pulse violently, the energy building into a blinding crescendo. Come on, you bastard, he growled through clenched teeth. Let's end this. The Prime lunged. The ground split open. The sky screamed. And then, silence. A single flash lit up the desert, swallowing everything in light. When it faded, the Badlands were gone. Just glass. Miles and miles of it. Smooth. Silent. Reflecting the blood-red dawn. But deep beneath that glass, far below where light could reach, something moved. A single, rhythmic pulse. Slow. Patient. Alive. The hunt was not over. The desert was glass. A wasteland of frozen light stretched for miles in every direction, a sea of reflective death beneath a burning sun. The explosion had erased everything, the Ark, the predators, the ruins of humanity's last outpost. Only silence remained. But silence lies. Beneath that perfect, glassy surface, something stirred. It began as a tremor, then a heartbeat, faint, mechanical, and wrong. The echo of something that refused to die. A hand broke through the surface. Not human. Not alien. Something between. The fingers were wrapped in scorched armor that hissed with steam. The skin underneath was gray and veined with black circuitry. When the figure finally rose, shards of glass rained off its body like falling stars. It was Hale. Or what was left of him. His right eye glowed faintly green, predator tech fused into human flesh. His veins pulsed with the same sickly light that had powered the Ark. Half his face was burned, the rest replaced by biomechanical grafts. Every breath came out as a distorted rasp through damaged lungs. He stood in the middle of nothing, staring across a world that no longer recognized him. Vega, he croaked, his voice splitting like static. No answer. Only the whisper of hot wind over dead earth. He dropped to his knees. The plasma charge should have vaporized him, and yet, he was here. Alive, or something close to it. His mind flickered with fragments, Vega's hand, the light swallowing everything, the Prime's roar folding into silence. He clenched his fists. The predator tech inside him pulsed harder, as though it understood his rage. His memories blurred with theirs, hunting patterns, kill records, ancient rites of blood. The predator language whispered at the back of his skull, reshaping thought into instinct. He was one of them now. But somewhere, buried under that growing animal hunger, a human voice still whispered, "End it." The glass beneath him cracked, a slow, resonant sound like a scream muffled by distance. Hale turned sharply. A black shape was moving under the surface. Huge. Deliberate. It rose, shattering the ground like thin ice. The Prime was still alive. But it wasn't whole anymore. Its body was twisted, melted into the terrain. Its limbs fused with glass and metal, its face shattered into a mask of half flesh, half machinery. It dragged itself across the surface, leaving trails of molten sand behind. When it spoke, it wasn't a roar. It was a whisper that reached straight into Hale's head. "You, carry my blood." Hale staggered back, clutching his temple. The words weren't sound, they were inside him. The thing was linked to him through the predator grafts. He was a vessel, a living echo of its mind. "No," Hale gasped, his voice shaking. "You die here. We all die here." The Prime's broken skull lifted. Its single remaining eye glowed brighter, its voice deepening into a chorus of millions. "You misunderstand. The hunt begins with death." The ground split open again, revealing what lay beneath the glass, the true horror buried all along. Rows upon rows of predator eggs, thousands of them, glowing faintly green. They pulsed like veins beneath translucent glass. Inside each one, a shape twitched, not purely predator, not purely human. Something new. Hale stumbled back, horror spreading through him like fire. No, that's impossible. But he knew. He had seen what the Ark had been doing before the explosion, harvesting DNA, fusing human and predator genetics, creating a hybrid species capable of surviving Earth's poisoned atmosphere. And he was the final prototype. The Prime's whisper filled the air again. "You are the seed, Hale. The first of many." Hale fell to his knees, screaming. The predator tech under his skin surged to life. The implants in his spine expanded, black tendrils wrapping around his ribs. His heartbeat accelerated into a metallic thrum. He clawed at his own chest, ripping at the glowing veins, but they healed faster than he could tear them. His bones creaked, reshaping. His voice broke into static-laced growls. He wasn't dying. He was evolving. And somewhere deep in that monstrous change, a small part of him still thought, if I can't stop it, I can contain it. He looked at the Prime, its massive frame sinking into the molten glass. Hale limped forward, every movement agony. "If I'm the seed," he rasped, "then I'll bury the tree." He plunged his hand into the creature's chest, through broken armor, through pulsing flesh. The world erupted in green fire. For one brief moment, Hale and the Prime shared a single consciousness, two predators bound by rage, memory, and blood. He saw their history, entire civilizations hunted to extinction, galaxies marked by trophies. The hunt was never random. It was ritual. A cycle. And now humanity was next. The fire swallowed everything again. When the light faded, the glass planes were silent once more. The Prime was gone. So was Hale. Only the wind moved, and the faint hum of buried eggs beneath the surface. Weeks later, scavengers crossed the wasteland. They found nothing but glass and bone. Until one of them, a boy no older than 12, pressed his hand against the ground. He felt warmth. Then a heartbeat. A crack spidered through the glass beneath his palm. Something moved below, small, fast, and breathing. The boy leaned closer. And from below the glass, a claw touched his hand.